so pleased to have Joshua Washington with us today on Legacy Lounge. Welcome, Joshua Washington.
Thanks for having me, Shari.
Thank you. Thank you so much for being here. Um, Joshua, also known as JoDavi, I'm so pleased to have you here with the Legacy Conversation. He is the Executive Director of IBSI now, the Institute for Black Solidarity with Israel, which recently launched the Peace Initiative. He is an accomplished composer, music director, recording artist, writer, speaker, activist, and lover of all things family. Thank you so much for being here, Joshua. It's great to have you.
Of course. Thank you for having me on this, Shari.
Oh, it's good to be here. So there's the 5 questions that I sent you earlier, and we'll dive into those. So Josh, I would love to hear, what is legacy to you?
Legacy to me is more than just the actions that you leave behind. So, more than just the works that you leave behind, I should say, the things that you've built. To me, it's the best way to see someone's legacy is inside of people, right? So the actual people that they leave behind, whether that's their friends, their family, their children, which I think is that's the biggest determiner, right, of how what legacy you left behind. And what are those people doing now that you're gone? Are they lost? Did they find a new sense of purpose? Are they continuing to build? Are they fighting with each other? Those things I think are big determining factors in what kind of legacy was left.
I love the image of what we invest or create as a foundation for another generation to step into. So that's a beautiful picture. So curious, what is the why story or your historical story around motivating you to build legacy?
My why story, it really is centered around family. My mother and father, they were very active in raising us. I'm one of 6 children, so I'm number 2
Oh, cool.
Of 6, 5 sisters, and me. And so
Wow.
and they homeschooled us. My father in particular, he was very very particular about the music, the kind of music that we listened to, and when we could listen to certain music, and then when we did, he was very adamant about being there with us and actually explaining to us what was being said, what were the references being made, and helping us to think critically about words, like what words are being, what messages are being told to you, and don't just sit there and accept it passively. No, you should know what's being said. And my mom, being the main homeschooler, they were very, very they just, to the best of their ability, did what they felt was best for their kids. I think that it wasn't even it wasn't even their intention, this part of it, but what it did for me, at least, it's caused me to process everything that I do through the lens of what they gave to me, and I think for all of us, we process that way, we don't just do things independently without any kind of connection to the rest of our family. Like, it's all connected. And so, yeah, that's the core for me, really, are my parents, who instilled that type of hard work, character, integrity into us, and it still informs what I do now.
As a powerful foundation to be that intentional about what words or what things we allow to guide or absorb into our lives, and how that directs our focus and impacts the choices and the direction we head in.
Right.
So
right.
Yeah, that's amazing.
Absolutely.
What are you doing now? So I referenced IBSI and also Peace Initiative, and the fact that you're have an amazing career as an artist. But what are you doing now that you hope to impact not just only this generation, but future generations? Whatever that looks like.
Yeah, right. What I hope impacts future generations, Well, one of the things is the Peace Initiative, and we just got back from we're almost at the end of our we are actually toward the end of our journey with this first year
Okay.
of what we call IBSI ambassadors, and we've it's been incredible to not just to have these educational sessions, these modules, but to travel to South Africa to meet a lot of young entrepreneurs and a lot of even older people who have a very, very keen sense on their own history and what apartheid was for them.
Mm-hmm.
Um, to meet a lot of people in the South African Jewish community and to see how that interaction takes place, to see how much has been contributed to the Black South African community from the Jewish community, and to see that synergy, and then to be in Israel just a few weeks ago,
Mm-hmm.
to continue to see the Africa-Israel relationship. I think that we'll only really see how much this affected our students in the coming months, but I'm already, having these meetings with them, and
Yeah.
they're putting together programming in their areas across the country, things that they want to do, ways they want to help IBSI, and also ways that they want to engage with the Jewish communities in their areas. So it's definitely something that's, I think, will have a lasting impact. Um, and then on top of that, with my music as well, it's going back to the whole lyrics and words.
Mm-hmm.
I right now things are starting to pick up a lot in terms of just traveling, and I've been able to
No, it's
I
good.
played in Israel a few weeks ago, which was my first international show, and
Awesome.
yeah, which is like, it was incredible, and just being able to express uh, lessons and principles that were instilled in me, and
Yeah.
things that I've learned just in my growing up, things I've learned from scripture and all that, and to put that into my music, and be able to perform and to display those things in in normal settings,
Yes.
like,
Yeah.
and have those kind of conversations with people. It's something that's special to me, and I'm noticing now that it's really picking up steam, and we're
Mm.
getting ready to go to Europe. We're getting ready to go to um, back to the West Coast, Nevada and California, things in like different festivals, and to me, that's what the mark that I want to leave in terms of music is, one
Yeah.
that changes people. I remember the moments when I was changed from listening to, people like India Ari, when I saw her live, or when I first heard Lauryn Hill's first album, Miseducation. Those things really, they changed the way I thought. They changed the way that I thought about music, and even the way I thought about life. The way they depicted things, and I want to be able to have that impact on those people as well. So that's hoping
Yeah.
that
Oh,
that makes sense.
absolutely. No, totally. It totally makes sense. So I think the whole idea you talking about the Peace Initiative and IBSI is that
Mm,
a bridging of culture and bringing understanding. And you're
absolutely.
talking with your music, you're talking
Mm,
about sharing a culture that impacted you deeply, and you see the value of. And it's like, if there is a way for me to share the life that I encountered as a result of how your parents crafted the world for you, that's a whole, that's a paradigm that's allowed to be shared with people,
mm,
that allows them to engage in things that they may have not seen before. And that shifts our own personal culture too. So
mm.
if you were to describe the mandate of IBSI or the Peace Initiative, how would you describe that, just for people who don't know about it?
Yeah. So IPSI's mandate is to strengthen the relationship between Africa and Israel through, we call it, through education, advocacy, and community engagement, which is what our Peace Initiative is.
Okay.
Um, that's the acronym. It's Plan for Education, Advocacy, and Community Engagement.
Awesome.
And we've done, even before the Peace Initiative, we've done that through our content making, through videos, through speeches, and
Mm-hmm.
community events, things like that. And so this initiative is just more on the ground now. We're taking individuals, we're vetting them, we're interviewing them, and then these are Black American leaders from all over the country.
Mm.
We're taking them on this 9-month journey, and it really is, for us. It's kind of a double thing. We're learning about Israel-Africa relationship, but we're also
Yeah.
our ambassadors also just learning about our own heritage through this. Right, we're learning more about the continent, and
Yeah.
that's something that has been incredibly profound for a lot of us. In that we are loving all this information that we're getting, but
Yeah.
we're all like, wow. For a lot of them, it was their first time going to South Africa. Was their first time on the African continent. Period.
Right. Yeah.
And so that was already something that was special for them. So like kind of finding identity and also seeing this ancient relationship that's
Mm.
always been in place. You know, we
Yeah.
talk about King Solomon and Queen of Sheba, right? And that
Yeah.
was the first like interaction, the first
Yeah.
Israel summit, if you will.
Yeah.
And so that's something. It's this very spiritual thing, and I think while we're finding our identity, we're also learning these very deep, deep spiritual principles at the same time. And something that I think that we could have never really imagined. When my dad had this idea,
Yeah.
he moved forward with it, but I don't think we could have imagined something like this happening, which is really awesome.
I think you just reflecting on that, and that earlier when you were talking, I had just thought about that idea of it being generational, because your dad had the vision and you are working with him, and so there's this
Right.
second
Right.
generation part of it, but there's also this generational component that's happening of you taking back to another country and seeing it's like, this is layered and this has been going on for centuries, and it's
Mm-hmm.
rich and it's deep.
Yeah.
So that's really beautiful. What keeps you up at night, Josh? And what do you want to see change?
Wow. Ever since I had my two sons, so my
Mm,
first son, Ezra, what kept me up, so I have two boys, Ezra and Judah, but when we had Ezra, I became more, we were always aware of like how, unfortunately, how kids are just being so abused, and whether it's trafficking,
yep.
whether it's you know medically, and let's give you these surgeries, and get your body parts cut off, all that stuff. And it's what one thing that really has been gripping me since my firstborn was born was just how big of an industry the child trafficking industry is,
Mm,
and how and if there was one thing that, honestly, if there's one thing that like, if I could just like have a wish granted to be
yeah.
alleviated, I could that's done, get rid of it all. Like,
Yeah.
and so that's something that I pray, for organizations that are combating those things. Something that, my wife and I we give to as many of those as we can. And
Mm-hmm.
but I do, at least for me personally, I do sense that at some point we'll take even more of an active stance in that,
Hmm.
just because I think society, though, I think it was Nelson Mandela said that you can tell a lot
Yes.
about society by the way they treat their children. And I think that
Yes.
that's just one of the biggest red flags, the biggest cancer in our country, like that, or in the world. It's a global thing that like
Oh, it's a
really,
global thing. You're totally
yeah,
right. Yeah.
like it marks a decaying of a society,
Mm-hmm.
and we can't sustain ourselves, by continuing to abuse our children like this. So that's probably the
Yeah.
biggest thing that keeps me up for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And in no way to dehumanize it, but it is abusing of our future. Like
exactly.
it is the very essence of our existence
Absolutely.
that we are crushing.
Yeah, I mean,
And so
you're talking about legacy.
yeah,
Absolutely. I mean,
yeah,
we're cutting off our own legacy.
yeah.
What are we
No,
leaving behind?
yeah,
Yeah,
no,
absolutely.
totally, totally. And
Mm,
my heart resonates so deeply with,
mm,
what you're saying there. It's like, and I think I believe we're moving into a time where we're going to see potentially longer life. And so the consequences of choices and things that we do,
yeah,
we will see second and third generation away, and
yeah,
later on, or earlier on in history, it's like if
mm,
you made it to a second generation or a third, that was
yeah,
phenomenal. But I think we're going to see that and start to understand the implications of exactly the foundation that you spoke of early on with your parents, and how
absolutely.
significant that was. So last question,
Yeah,
what do you imagine is possible, Josh?
man. What I imagine is possible is I'm an optimist. That's
Yeah.
so my wife and I balance each other out because she's very much a realist,
Yeah.
and very much like I'm the big dreamer. So
Mm-hmm.
um, honestly, I really think that anything, any worthy cause is possible. Anything is
Yeah.
can happen. I do believe that we can end. end trafficking. I do believe that, like,
Yeah.
Black Americans as a whole, we can be redeemed in terms of finding our identity and reconnecting
Uh,
with the continent. I see that happening, different initiatives, especially in West Africa. There's initiatives in Ghana where they have these programs where they reach out to Black Americans and then they can reconnect with them, because they say, like, we've lost people too, like, so a lot of your ancestors were taken as slaves, but we also lost our families and friends.
yeah.
So there's this mourning that's happening, and it's beginning to bridge. I
Yeah.
think that I think that our I think that redemption in that sense can happen for sure.
Hmm.
Yeah, and I think that, um, not to sound too naive, but I do think that peace can be achieved. I do think peace can be achieved. It takes honest, honesty and truthfulness to
Yeah.
start with, and then moving from there. I think we just have to be honest about what is happening, why it's happening, who's causing it, and I think
Yeah.
that we can actually take good steps, toward peace for sure.
And I remember I had a pen pal in Ghana when I was about 10 years old, and just the scope that, even though it was such a small situation, that was old school writing letters.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
But how that crafted my vision of the world being so much broader than where I lived. And so, yeah, that's amazing. Tell us about ways to get a hold of you, or for people to follow you on social media,
Yeah, yeah,
about any of your upcoming concerts in July and
absolutely.
August. We'd love to hear about those things.
Sure. Yes. So I'm currently on a tour. At JoDavi Music is my handle, and you can find me anywhere. I'm on any social media or even Substack. Now I write a lot of articles, and sometimes have interviews as well.
Cool.
I'm going to be in California a couple of times next month. I'll be playing a big festival in Oakland, and then I'm playing in my old hometown in Stockton, and that's going to be with a huge orchestra,
Oh, wonderful.
band, and everything, which would be cool. And then, a couple shows in North Carolina, and
Right.
then we're getting ready to go to Europe. So we'll be out in Paris mostly, at the end of September,
Oh, wonderful.
and yeah, and then we'll just be kind of gearing up for next year. And there's some cool stuff happening. There, I
Cool.
just became a member of the Recording Academy. I just found out from them the other day,
Oh,
so
that's
very
wonderful.
excited about that. Yes, so, there's some things that are coming up now, this year in relation to that I'll be posting about soon. But yeah, there's a lot of good stuff.
Congratulations.
Thank you very
That's
much. Thank you.
wonderful. So, and your IG handle is?
My IG handle is, JoDavi Music, so JoDavi Music.
Okay, cool.
And that's everywhere. IG, Facebook, Twitter, everything is the
Okay,
same handle.
awesome. Thank you so much for being with us on Legacy Lounge. I so appreciated hearing your thoughts, and we look forward to just seeing what amazing things come of the work that you're doing. So,
Thank you so much, Shari. Thank
yeah.
you for having me.